Boston, so we'll get started. My name's Allie. I am a doctor of physical therapy as well as a nationally certified Pilates instructor. I've practiced here in Boston over the last 5 years. I own my own practice here and I teach with the Community Online Academy every Thursday, and I do teach from 7 a.m. all the way until this time, so it is easy to get those times mixed up. What we have for you today is our traditional back pain class. It is 30 minutes in length. Today we're going to be almost entirely movement based. So we've got lots of stretching, some strengthening in today's program. We'll look a little bit at balance work, and then I will save some time for Q&A at the end of class. So if you do have a question, feel free to write it in the chat. I'm not going to read it until the end of class, but put that in, and that way I can get to that when we have a moment at the end. Before we get started with our movements, I encourage you guys to listen to your bodies. So know that everyone's backs are managing something slightly different, and certain things are going to feel good for some people and not as good for others. So take the modifications that I offer if you feel like you need it, and take those challenges as well when that feels right for your body. So with that being said, we're going to get started down on the mat, lying on our backs and getting in touch with how our body feels in this moment. So find a comfortable position here to rest down. I'm going to choose to have my knees bent. You can choose to have your legs extended if that's comfortable for you. I just want you to find a position that works for your body in this moment. Let your feet rest down heavy onto the mat. And we'll just start to scan our body from the very tippity top of our head all the way down to the tips of our toes. And as you're scanning, you're just noticing any differences side to side, any spots of tension, just letting your body go, really melting down onto the mat. And as you find that heaviness of your body on the mat, see if you can start to tune your attention into your breath. Imagine your trunk like a cylinder, inhaling to inflate that cylinder and exhaling to feel the cylinder start to narrow and grow taller. Inhale, feel the whole cavity of your trunk start to open up in all directions. And with your exhale breath, gently letting that go. We'll try 2 more times here like this. Take an inhale, open up, gently expand, and an exhale breath to release. And once more here, big inhale, open up. And we'll take this now into some gentle movement for our low back. So if you imagine the space underneath your low back, we'll do a pelvic tilt. So close that space by curling the tailbone towards your face, and then gently open that space by lifting and pressing your tailbone towards your feet. So very gently, just rocking front to back. And I want this to be within your body's comfortable range of motion. So if this is the first movement you've done all day, it may be a little bit stiff, and that's okay. Work within what's comfortable for your body here. And as you move a little bit, you may find that this movement gets a little bit bigger and more comfortable. Think about curling your tailbone towards your face and letting it go, towards your face and letting it go. Good. Nice and easy here. 3 more. And 2. Good. Last time here. Now go ahead and walk your feet together, knees together. Let your arms rest down by your side. We're going to introduce some rotation into our spine next. So very gently, let your legs rock from side to side. And again, you're only letting your legs go as far as they can without any pain or discomfort in your back. And it's okay for your hips to lift here, but I want your shoulders to stay down on the mat. So just a gentle rock side to side. And with this motion, you may find that your range of motion gets a little bit bigger here as you move as well. Good. 4 more. And 3. Very nice here, guys. 2. 1 more time. Gently roll back through the center and settle your body. We're going to go ahead and walk the heels in close enough to be able to tap them with your fingertips. Ground your feet into the floor, feeling your big toe all the way over to your pinky toe, pressing the feet into the floor. We're warming up now for bridging, and we're going to try our bridging in a flat back position. So if you imagine your whole spine moving as one unit, push your feet down into the floor to lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Gently lower your hips back down. Now you should feel the work of this bridging in your glutes, your butt muscles. And if you're not sure, you can always hold that bridge at the high point and see if you can feel that work. Holding your bridge position high. Push down into both of your feet. If you feel pressure in your low back, hold your hips high. Soften the front of your ribs like you're closing the space between your ribs and hips, and then continue with your movement here. Good. So this is a movement that is important for a lot of back conditions. One, it is a nice passive stretch to our hip flexors, but two, this hip hinging type movement is what we use in squatting and bending over. This is also what supports our back in those positions. We're going to do another movement just like this a little later on in class. I want you guys to remember this movement as we tune back in a little bit later. We'll do one more time like that. And then drop the hips back down. Go ahead and stretch your legs out long and stretch your arms long overhead. Take a full body stretch. Can you lengthen your spine on the mat? Like I'm pulling your fingertips and toes in the opposite direction. Now we're going to come up to sitting from this position. And if that's not comfortable for your body, you can roll to the side and press yourself up to sit. If you'd like to try, look towards your fingers and then roll your spine all the way on up to a tall seat. Now from here, gather your knees, bend your legs, and we're going to do a little bit of abdominal work with some speed. So if you've taken my class before, we often work really, really slowly to help target the right core muscles. But today, I want to see if your core can react in situations that are a little bit faster. And it's actually a different type of muscle fiber that fires. So what we'll do is bring the hands behind the thighs. We're going to create a C shape with our low back. So gently roll the spine backwards, roll back another inch, even another inch, and pick your feet up to float. Drop your heels closer to your bottom, look to your knees. Now, roll back just to your shoulder blades, come up and balance. This also doubles as a really nice little massage for your spine if you allow it to be that way. Now you might feel like there's one part of your spine that's a little bit flat. It doesn't roll nicely. See if you can imagine creating roundness through the whole spine so it's this comfortable roll back and lift. Good, draw your rib cage in, lift down to your knees, roll up and lift. 3 more. Good, guys, hold that balance at the top. 2 more, we roll, hold and balance. Last time there, we roll back, hold and balance. And then you can gently place those feet down, scoot your bottom back a little bit to allow your legs to fall flat onto the mat. Now, if you have a lot of tension in your hamstrings and it's difficult to sit up tall with your legs straight, go ahead and bend your knees just slightly here. Try and stack your shoulders right over your hips. And once you have found that position, lift through your spine, keeping your flat back. You're going to tip and hinge your hips forward to rest your hands down. And you should feel that stretch in the back of your hamstrings here. Now, the reason I don't have a super slumped over is that I want to protect your back here. I want you guys to keep that length through your spine so that the stretch is in your legs and not taken away from your back. So keep your heart lifted. Think of drawing your rib cage in towards your spine like you're giving your stomach a gentle hug, and tip the hips forward like you're kind of a zombie falling forward. We'll hold and take a deep breath in here and a deep breath out to gently let it go. Excellent. From this position, we're going to flip on over to an all-fours setup. So go ahead and line up with your hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. Now, if you need padding for your knees, this is a great place for your pillow, or you can roll up your mat a couple of times. If you have sensitive wrists, you can always shift your body weight backwards just slightly. We're not going to be here for super long. So allow your head to hang down, draw the ribs up towards the ceiling, and then drop your chest down, heart open, head shines forward. Drop your head down, hanging, lifting the rib cage up to the ceiling, and drop the ribs down, shoulders down, head lift. We'll try 3 more like this. Work within your body's comfortable range of motion. We're just kind of exploring those extremes. 2 more. Good, guys. And once more, just like this. And then gently coming back up. So we're going to look at balance for a moment. And in order to do so, I'd like you to walk your right foot forward so that you have a 90-degree angle in your front foot and your back leg and come up to balance. Okay, this can feel a little bit wobbly. If it does, I want you to really ground your front foot into the floor. At the same time, try and stack your shoulders on top of your hips and square your hips. So this is sort of a modified lunge position, and this gives us a sense of where our body is in space. I'm going to show you guys from the front for a second. Many of you will find that you might be actually a little bit tipped to the side in this position. Really try and stack your shoulders right over your hips, and that may mean you have to shift your body weight to that front standing leg, my right leg in this case, and it can feel a little bit wobbly. If you're someone who says, oh, it's really hard for me to push into this front foot, I don't feel like I can put any pressure there, shift your body weight to that side. Chances are your spine is tipped. So we're just going to hold and breathe. Pick your chest up a little bit taller, get your bearings, get your balance. And then we're going to deepen this now into a hip flexor stretch. So we're already set up. You may already feel that stretch on the front of your left hip. If you don't, bend forward just a little bit more into your right leg, keeping the chest tall. Engage your core muscles as well as your glutes on the left side, and that should help you to feel that stretch. Now, my hips are square, and my favorite way to know if the hips are square is if I put my hands on my hips, my elbows point right out to the side. If they are not, you'll see one elbow point forward and one elbow point back. Okay, so work to rotate that left hip forward just slightly. Hold and breathe for one more breath here. And then we come back down and replace that right foot back. Good. We're going to reset in that neutral spine position, this time bringing the left foot forward, grounding the left foot into the mat, picking your chest up tall. So we have a 90-degree angle at the front and back legs. Try and once again, stack your shoulders over your hips. Now we're looking at this little balance, and again, maybe this side's much easier, maybe this side's a little harder. I know for me, this one feels a little bit less steady, as it gives us some data about how our balance is in lunging type positions, which is something that we use regularly to get things on the floor. It's also what we use to go up and down stairs. See if you can put pressure into that front foot. You should feel your front left glute working a little bit here. And if you don't, try shifting your body weight to that side. You can bring your hands to your hips again to see if your hips are square. Draw your rib cage in. You may already feel that stretch on the front of your right hip. If you don't, you can lunge forward just slightly more. Now, our hip flexors are muscles that get shortened because of sitting. And so when we sit, that muscle can get quite tight. So that may be what you're feeling here is a nice deep, big stretch. We'll take one more big inhale breath in and another big, gentle exhale breath out. We'll press back, take our hands down onto the floor and take a moment's rest. We're going to now take this down onto the mat to lay on our stomachs. So separate your feet a little bit wider than hip distance. Ground your hands down underneath your shoulders, and we'll start to press up to lift the back. So maybe you're comfortable just lifting your upper back, and that's fine here. If you're more comfortable pressing all the way up to lift your low spine, you can also do so here. So press your heart open, lift the chest, shine the chest forward, and melting back down. Draw your rib cage up and in as though you're giving your stomach a gentle hug as you lift and lower to keep your core active. Think of dropping your shoulders down away from your ears. Now we do this one, this is an extension posture, as another way to passively stretch the hip flexors, but it's also a good stretch for our spine. So our spine all day is bent forward in flexion when we sit. This is the opposite of that position. This is extension. We'll try 3 more here. And gently lower back down. Good, guys. 2 more. And melt all the way down. That's it. 1 more time here. Press up and hold. Hold at the top. Take a deep breath in through your nose and a breath out through your mouth. And then bring your toes together. And you can sit back into your child stretch with your knees either out to the side or all the way together. So whatever works better for your body, you can try either of those stretches and see how that changes things. So whatever works for you. If you're comfortable, you can even rest your forehead down onto the mat. So work within your body's comfortable range of motion. Take a deep, big breath in through the backside of your rib cage and a deep breath out, letting go of some of that air. We'll try one more breath here in and a gentle breath out and walk on up to a kneeling position. Let me just adjust the camera a tiny bit here for our next stretch. So you guys are going to find a seated position with your legs open a little bit wider than hip distance. Now, again, if this feels really tight already, or you feel like your whole spine is kind of slumping to be here, this is where that pillow comes in handy. So I want you to sit up on your pillow so that you can sit up a little bit taller. So that is an option. You can also gently bend your knees here. So what we're going to do is use this stretch to get a nice opening through the inner thighs, but we are also going to do a little upper back work. So open up your arms to take up space. Imagine spreading your fingertips as wide as you can, and then feel how the weight underneath your hips is even. I want you to keep the weight even as you rotate and twist and come back through the center. Exhale, rotate and twist. So imagine using your arms like levers. You're rotating to spin your spine around itself, but keeping the hips steady on the mat. Notice if you're starting to slump forward and try and reset getting tall. This is a pretty stiff movement for many people, so don't worry if your motion is pretty small here. Work within what's good for your body today. What's nice about this is that we're also getting a passive stretch of those muscles on the inside of our thighs here. Good. 3 more. That's it, guys. Exhale to twist for 2. Come back through the center, stay tall. Last time here. Come back through the center, draw your arms down, roll out your shoulders. Now we're gonna do one more movement here, this time side bending. So that was just rotation for our upper back. We're gonna do side bending now of the whole spine. So we'll open up that wingspan once again, sit up super tall, and this time dive our arms up and over. Now, if you're starting to get any pinching or discomfort in the front of your hips, go ahead and bend your knees here. You can also find that pillow and go ahead and sit up on top of your pillow to give yourself a little bit of height. As you gently bend side to side, you may also feel that nice stretch through the hips on the inside of your legs. Stay up nice and tall. Let your breath be comfortable and be natural here. Good. That's it, guys. 5 more and 4. That's it. Last 3 and 2. Once more here. Good. And bring your arms down. This time we're going to gather our feet to bring the soles of the feet together. Now, if you feel pinching in the front of your hips, you can slide your feet a little bit farther away from your body, but bring them in as close as you feel comfortable. And then once you are in that setup from the side, you want to sit up super tall. Keep your spine tall as you tip forward. So kind of as best you can, maintaining that flat back. If you're getting popping in the front of your hips, bring your knees just a little bit more narrow and continue to tip forward. You can also slide your feet away from your body and try that same stretch. So different people are going to be tight in different areas. We actually have 2 sets of muscles on the inside of our thighs. We have ones that go past the knee joint, which we stretched when our legs were straight. These ones we're stretching are the ones that are inside the knee joint. They are shorter muscles of the adductors. We'll take one more big, deep breath in here. And a deep breath out to gently let that air go. Excellent. Go ahead and gather your knees together. We're going to take this now, kind of reversing out a lot of that hip work that we just did into a reverse tabletop. So if you guys turn, we're going to place the hands about 6 to 8 inches behind your bottom. And I like to have my hands pointing sideways to protect my wrists, but you can point them in any direction that feels comfortable for your body. Now, this is where that bridging exercise comes back. But before we get to the bridging part, let's set our upper body. So we're going to open up the chest, straighten the elbows, get tall through the top of your head. push your hands down into the floor. So this already is a nice stretch for our upper back, our thoracic spine. Our upper back and thoracic spine is where a lot of people tend to be tight. So even though it is not your lower back, sometimes tightness and stiffness there can lead to more pressure and stress on your low back. So push your heart open. Now through this whole series, I want you guys to keep that tall, proud, flat upper back. Ground your feet into the floor, push into your toes. We're back to our bridging. We're gonna lift the hips up and gently lower back down. Keep your eyes on your toes. I know it's tempting to want to look up to the ceiling. In this position, that can be quite stressful to the neck. So maybe look down to your knees or your feet, push your feet into the floor, press the hips up and gently lower, tapping back down, but keep the proud chest. Eyes on the knees, heart is open, lift up and gently lower back down. You guys have got this. 3 more times like that. And soften, gently lower back down. 2 more times here, press on up, lift, and softly lower. Good. 1 more time here, press up, lift, and hold. Ground the feet into the floor, open up your heart. We hold for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Drop your hips back down. We'll shake the hands out and gently reach forward once again. Awesome, guys. So we're going to take that now into a plank movement with some added stretching for our hamstrings. 2 options here. I will demonstrate both and then you guys can join me. So if you're taking your full plank up on your hands and toes, we'll walk back into your downward dog type motion and then shift forward. If you are modifying your plank down on your knees, you're going to push back to your child's pose and then shift forward back to your plank position. Back to the child's pose and forward to your plank. Okay, so find the option that's right for you. We're gonna start with a little hold of the plank. So line up both hands underneath your shoulders, shoulders roll down away from your ears, neck is long, walk 1 foot back and then the other, 1 knee back. Now hold. I want you guys to think of pushing the floor away from you, just like we were doing with the press up, laying on your stomach, drawing your ribs up away from the floor, your neck is long. Now keeping that spine shape exactly the same, push back to your down dog or your child's pose, and then shift back forward, lifting your head. Push back, look down towards your toes, and then gently shift forward. You can bend your knees here slightly if needed, or work with straight legs as you shift back forward, full plank. 4 more. That's it here, guys. Last 3. Get ready for another little plank hold here in 2 and shift back and forward. Last time, reach back, come all the way forward and we hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Drop down onto both knees if you were lifted. Come on up and shake out your wrists. You can roll them out and rinsing out the spine. Awesome, guys. We'll take 1 more stretch here down on our sides. So go ahead and find a comfortable position lying on your side, either making a little pillow with your biceps, or you can grab that pillow and place it underneath your ear. We're going to do both sides, so either is fine. Try bending both knees in towards your chest. Bring them in nice and close to protect your low back in this position. And then take your top hand, reaching it out in front of you. You're going to tap the floor in front of you and then reach it up and over to aim for the floor behind you. So I call this book openings. Imagine with that top hand, you are reaching and turning the page of a giant book, the biggest book you have ever seen. All the while, your knees are staying together. That means that your low back is not rotating. Again, we're focusing that rotation to our upper back, just the way that we did in that seated position earlier in class. If you have shoulder sensitivity, keep a soft bend in your elbow as you gently rotate to open and gently close. Good. Follow that top hand with your eyes here. We have 3 more. Very nice, guys. Good. 2 more here. And gently close. And last time, just like this. Good. Now you guys can roll right to the other side. I will sit up so I can continue to see you here, and find your second side. So once again, you want to bend your knees in nice and close towards your chest. Stack the legs on top of one another. Let your head and neck rest down. Your top hand is going to reach out in front of you and then reach back out and back behind you. So one of the reasons I focus a lot on the upper back during these low back classes is because our rib cage, our thoracic spine, attaches to the ribs, and that affects our ability to breathe well. So if your upper back and your rib cage is super stiff, it makes it really hard for us to use our diaphragm in breathing. And that's what is important to help manage what we call the intra-abdominal pressure around our spine. Intra-abdominal pressure is what helps our core engage at the right time, and it's what keeps our spine stable during a lot of different movements. So in a very roundabout way, but actually quite a direct way, the mobility of our ribs is super, super important to protecting our low back. We'll try one more time just like this. Good. And then go ahead and press yourself on up to a seated position. So we're going to finish our class here with breathing as we just talked about. You can find a comfortable seat. I'm going to choose a cross-legged position, but any comfortable seat is fine for you here. You can close your eyes, feel your hips grounded down into the floor. We're going to try and take those deep belly breaths to finish class. So we just did lots of upper back mobility. I hope that you feel like you can breathe maybe a little bit deeper, a little bit fuller than when you started class. We'll take that inhale, reach the fingertips up tall to the ceiling. Exhale, let it go. Again, try another inhale breath, reach up, lift, and exhale, release. One more time here. Big inhale, stretch up tall, reach. And exhale, let it go. Let your arms fall down by your side. Awesome job, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed the movement-based part of our class today. What we'll spend our last couple minutes doing is going over any questions that you have. So I'm going to get a little closer. I think there may be one in the chat already. So I can see that. I also ask that if you guys have some time to stick around to leave feedback about the program, Harsh, as our moderator, will be here to go over how to use the feedback app, especially if you are new. So feel free sending over any questions that you have. In the meantime, I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so Aaron asked a question. Sometimes my hands and arms felt like they were going numb. There can be different reasons why your arms might have like a numb, tingly feeling. Sometimes it's related to tightness across the chest. My recommendation is in the big movements that we did here with the arms straight, just bend your elbows a little bit. So that will take the tension off the nervous system in that area. You're still going to get the same benefit for the stretch when it relates to the spine. So just bend your elbows a little bit. My apologies that I did not cue that well for you in that part of the class. Okay, another good question. How can you modify the stretch where we rolled on our back if you have a fusion in your low back? Same question for the prone press up. So if you have a fusion in your back that's only at 1 or 2 levels, you can still do both of those exercises. It may be a little bit trickier, but remember you have lots of vertebrae to move from. Part of the goal with the fusion is to get you to move from other vertebrae that are not injured or damaged. So it's safe to do both of those movements. You just want to modify within the range of motion that works for your body. If you're someone who's dealing with a fusion that's pretty significant, it may be 3, 4, or more vertebrae, you can still, I would practice in the rolling like a ball exercise. Getting in that position and just holding your balance is a great option there. And with the press ups, you can still do, it's very, well, I should say mostly pretty rare to have fusions in the upper back. You can still focus that movement to the upper back. And in fact, that's a really healthy thing to do if your low back is fused, to have good mobility in the upper back. So in that pressing up exercise, focus on pressing up from the upper part of your spine. Those are great questions. I'm surprised I don't get those ones more frequently. Okay, so Ruby mentioned in the rolling exercise, the tailbone is sore. So that seemed rolling like a ball. That is also not uncommon. I think some people just have more sensitivity around that area. There are different shapes of the tailbone. But my recommendation is, one, to get a mat that has a little bit more padding. I'm someone who falls in that category, that I'm a little bit sensitive on a very thin yoga mat. So I don't know if you guys can really tell, but I have a thicker mat here. And I did post the link to that on the fitness store. That makes a huge difference. But two, being able to create roundness from your low back will help, so it's not such a jolting pressure to your tailbone. So that really is engaging those deeper core muscles to create that sort of C shape through the lower back. But I do think a big piece of that is having a nice padded mat. Okay. So what is the best breathing technique when doing the exercises? So best practice is just make sure you're breathing, for one. So worst practice would be to hold your breath. And when you're a beginner in learning these kinds of movements, I recommend that just make sure you're breathing. If you're breathing in any way, you're doing a good job. If you are looking to refine your breath patterns, to really, really enhance your movements, at the moment when your core is being challenged the most, that's when you want to exhale. So that's going to look different for certain types of exercises, but if you feel like, okay, I need the stability for my core, that's when you exhale, because the exhale breath helps you to turn on your deeper core muscles. And that's why I talk about the diaphragm is so important, to get those core muscles working. So you want to use the exhale, and it's not just any old exhale. I'm super picky about breathing, and that I want you to breathe out through your mouth, and I want you to breathe out forcefully. Like I always say, blowing out birthday candles, or like you're blowing out through a straw. It's called pursed lip breathing. That pursed lip breathing helps to manage our intra-abdominal pressure. So not to get too sciencey, but that helps you to engage your core muscles. So if there's a moment in time where your back's hurting, or you feel your back clicking, or you feel a little bit vulnerable in how your back feels, use that pattern of exhale breathing to help give it a little bit more support. Really, really good questions tonight. What is the minimum number of days per week you would recommend to perform these exercises? Ooh, tough one. I think that if you are spending most of your day sitting, you should do these exercises. So that's going to look different for everyone. If you have a really active week, you may not need to do these exercises as much. These are here to benefit you on the days when you're not very active, when you're not moving a lot otherwise. You can also break up these exercises into, different segments. Like you want to do 5 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the afternoon. You don't have to do it all at once. But I hope you guys take bits and pieces from these programs, and you can integrate them throughout your day. And that might make it feel a little bit less overwhelming. Like, oh, I have to set aside 30 minutes. Maybe it's just setting aside a couple minutes in the morning and a couple minutes in the afternoon and a couple minutes before you go to bed. And that can add up to your 30 minutes pretty quickly. So for some of us, that may be every day. But again, I hope that some of these things start to become more natural for you, that they can get integrated into your daily routine.